All right, we are live. What's going on, fellas? What up? We're going to tackle another Dynasty Startup mock draft. Not a ton going on. Mini camps wrapping up. I'll probably drop a video tomorrow breaking down some of the storylines from mini camps and that kind of thing. But we figured we'd see some player values. That's basically what we're doing this time of year. There's not a ton going on. Like I said, players and coaches and all those guys are going to be on vacation for the next couple weeks until training camp. So for the time being, we kind of just get to talk about if Kyle Pitts is a bust and, on other stupid narratives that we're seeing on Twitter that might not be true. So, Danny, what's up? How you doing?
Doing well. And yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it. Just a lot of stuff floating around on the Twitter circles between that and then cross-referencing sports. We got all the bullshit that's been going on with Zion and his ex-fling that's been... I can't even describe this week on social media, but all I can describe it as is a headache.
Yeah. It's not going to be the greatest month or so of football talk. It's just going to be a bunch of hot takes and nonsense. So I'm gonna drop the draft link into the YouTube chat. So if any of you guys are in here and you want to hop into the draft, you can hop in. We are going to be doing a Dynasty PPR Superflex 1.5 point tight end premium startup mock draft with a third round reversal on it too. So we'll give you guys the third round reversal taste as well. Sir King Jared was the first one in here. He and I just had a consultation today. And if you guys want to get a consultation with one of us, either of us, of course, we are running a special promotion right now where if you sign up on our site for an annual Mother Flocker membership, you'll get a free consultation for doing so. And then obviously, once you do that, just reach out to us and we can book that for you. Also, in site news, I dropped the running back top 10 rankings for 2024. So for those of you guys that have a bunch of 2024 first and you're curious, is the class good? Is the class bad? Who are the top guys? I dropped my rankings for that today, and then I dropped the quarterbacks last week. So all of those are live right now. And also there's like film breakdowns, things that I can't do on YouTube where I'm showing, the skill set and all that kind of stuff because of copyright concerns. So really, really fun. Definitely encourage you to check that out. If you're a site subscriber, if you're not, obviously go check that out. Link below in the description. We got a bunch of fellas in here. What up, lads? What's going on? Jay Full, Fire. Dan, we got the chat link or the draft link right here. It looks like it is full. Danny, if you want to share your screen while I'm ripping through some comments here. Corey, what's going on? Ayo, what's going on? Cody, hello, chat. What's going on? Jared, Toronto Dave, what's up? Let's go, fellas? What's going on? Don't have time to draft with you guys, but still always enjoying the content. Yes, sir. Hopefully you guys epic halal mode. You'd love to see it. Consultations are fire. Yes, Jay Full can attest. If you guys are on your lunch breaks right now, I'm assuming a lot of you guys are. We're just, messing around, hitting a mock draft, talking some player stuff. Feel free to drop any questions in the chats, any trades you've made recently and all that good stuff. And we'll probably be ripping through some more Dynasty stuff this week, maybe some Dynasty decisions videos and that kind of thing.
For sure. So you are actually on the clock here at the 101. Pretty much a change of moves, if you will, because I usually get the early pick. I'm here at the 108, and I'm assuming there's only really two options at the 101.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Mahomes. Of course, in the third round reversal mock, I'm picking 101. If we were not doing a third round reversal, I guarantee you I would be picking 111 right now, but, such is life. Grimly in the chat here says, rank these guys in a 12-team PPR Superflex. Debo, DJ Moore, Nick Chubb, Ayuk, Ridley, and Burks.
I mean, just off my rankings, I know out of the wide receivers, I think I have it Ayuk, Ridley, Debo, DJ Moore, Burks. And then out of the running backs, there's literally only Nick Chubb in there. He would probably be in the middle of that group.
Yeah, I think I have Debo higher. I have it Ayuk, Debo, Ridley, DJ Moore, Burks, and then Nick Chubb would be ahead of Burks only, I think, for me.
Oh, I also have what's called Burks ahead of Nick Chubb in Dynasty.
Yeah.
Let me see where my wide receiver rankings are because I do think that was the exact order, but let me just double check because we have time. Wide receiver, Ayuk, Samuel, Ridley, Burks, all back to back to back. That's actually freaking crazy. Oh, DJ Moore's after Burks. Sorry, that was true.
Good day, football people. What's going on, Max? See, Max a redraft guy. So the fact that the redraft guys are coming back to the streams, we love to see that. I'm at 10 in another draft too. Well, I'm at 5. Okay, so looks like
I randomized the order.
Oh yeah, so he's at 5. He's at 5 now.
Yep. And by the way, speaking here, obviously I can consider the wide receiver talent here with Jamar Chase, well worth the pick, but one of my top quarterbacks did fall to me, so I will be selecting Trevor Lawrence here.
Yeah, that's fair. Bargustus says, "Hey boys, thanks again for all the great content. No problem, it's our pleasure. Just had my dynasty draft and ended up with Patrick Mahomes, Bryce, and Kyler. Jeez, that means you must have gotten one
Wow.
of those guys in the third round. I don't know which. I guess there
Probably
were the
probably
212 and the
Kyler, yeah.
3-1 if it wasn't a third round reversal. But yeah, very very good value at the quarterback position there for future trades. Hopefully
Well
that
done.
doesn't mean like that means your league isn't like too low on these quarterbacks, and that's why you were able to get that good value. But I would say it's hard to pass up those quarterbacks when they all fall to you like that.
For sure. Well, wow, Ayuk higher than Debo. Well, when they're both on the field last year, once Christian McCaffrey came aboard, they actually had nearly identical target shares. Not to mention Brandon Ayuk, younger player. I think he's the better real life receiver. I know that might sound like a hot take, but given his reception perception, given his overall separation ability, given the yards after catch difference, obviously Debo you would favor there, but Ayuk is no slouch in that regard. I just think he's a complete wide receiver. And I do think once he has the opportunity to fully shine as a number one, he can be a 13, 14, 1,500 yard type of wide receiver that while Debo does have a season of doing that, I don't really think he can get back to that level.
Yeah, I think Debo's probably best season is behind him, especially
Yeah.
when you consider that he's, a little bit older for how long he's been in the league. And also, he's dealt with a ton of injuries over the course of his career. And I think, running back touches are also not going to help with
That's the
that, which I
thing.
think a lot of people are going to still attribute to him. So very, very surprise pick there with Tyreek Hill off the board at
Wow.
the 2-1. That's definitely the highest I've seen him go
Yep.
in a dynasty draft. Personally, for me, I would have favored AJ Brown there. You get a couple of years extra youth there. And I mean, from a redraft perspective, there's not a huge difference between AJ Brown and Tyreek Hill. I would prefer Tyreek Hill in redraft, but I don't think it's a massive, dichotomy where I would rather get the extra couple of years of age there.
100%. And I am happy either way because one of two guys I have at the top of my board are going to fall to me. Let's see which one Pope ends up taking. He actually goes Bijan Robinson. So I get Deshaun Watson able to fall to me. The other guy I was talking about would be Kyler Murray. I'm only mentioning him because it's unlikely for him to fall to 212, sadly for you.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get to me. Pretty good value there for Watson Lawrence. That's like an interesting combo that you don't see very often. Watson's usually going a little earlier than that. So Brett says, "What's up, fellas? What do you think about an early to mid second and Rashee Rice for Ayuk?" Yeah, I would much rather have Ayuk
I would
there.
want Ayuk. Yeah, no, Ayuk is going to be somebody that I cannot wait until he gets a Stephon Diggs level move, whether it's signing a big contract and they have to make a decision on Kittle or Debo, or whether he goes somewhere else, maybe the Giants or maybe another team that needs a number one alpha wide receiver. Because, like I said, I think it's sooner rather than later that although I don't think saying him entering the tier of like Lamb, Jefferson, I don't think he'll get there, but can he be a locked and loaded, top 8 to 12 Terry McLaurin plus in terms of production level wide receiver? Absolutely. So I'm all in on Brandon Ayuk in the future.
I mean, he's already got more production than Terry McLaurin ever has had.
Well, but I
to be
mean, like
honest.
like the standing, what I mean from a target share perspective, because
Yeah, oh yeah.
although he's a low 20s guy right now, obviously the situation is going to help him. I think he can be a mid to high 20s in somewhere else, which is what Terry McLaurin basically is for Washington now.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm on the board in one more pick here. There's a couple guys that I'm fine with at this spot, so I'll kind of wait and see what ends up falling to me here. Thank God, I wanted Bryce so
Bryce,
bad.
of course you did.
Yeah, I mean, wide receiver wise, like Olave, T. Higgins, Devontae Smith, all these guys are still pretty highly valued. And then you could maybe in a 1.5 tight end premium also consider Kyle Pitts with this pick. But
Yep.
I'm going to take the knowing that it's a third round reversal. Had I picked 3-1 also and it wasn't third round reversal, I probably go Bryce and Pitts there, or Bryce and Olave or whatever, and kind of just continue on my merry way. But knowing that I won't pick until 312, I'm definitely going to go with the quarterback because I'm probably not going to be looking at much on the board left for me.
100%. So overall, really like the teams we've been able to build out so far. Couple interesting picks thus far, but for the most part, pretty status quo.
Yeah, I'd like to let's pretend that we are evaluating this because we talk about this all the time, and I feel like in mock drafts we don't do a good enough job of outlining like what the strategy looks like for other teams. So for me, like when I look at the board, obviously there's no trades, so it makes it a little easier to kind of follow what teams are doing. We got a lot of quarterback centric, room, which is to be expected. Most of you guys following our channel would favor quarterbacks. Running backs look like they're not coming off the board pretty quickly. Just Bijan, Breece Hall, and Christian McCaffrey so far. And then a lot of young wide receivers, really sans Tyreek Hill. Every receiver that's been taken has been like 25 or younger. Yeah. So in this type of room, if I was in a real league like this might be the type of league where, you take the approach that Ski is taking, where you may be geared towards more of a competitive window. I think he may have misvalued Dak Prescott and Tyreek Hill a little bit. I personally wouldn't take both of those guys quite that high, but I do think if you're high on those players, it's not, outrageous to take them that high. This is the type of room where I would be looking to potentially transition into a win now team, just because it looks like everybody is going towards more of a productive struggle. And like Danny, with your next pick, you're going to have Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson, and you're staring down the barrel of Jonathan Taylor potentially here being on the board for you, or even one of the receivers, T. Higgins or something like that. You could definitely grab one of those guys and build out a competitive team.
Yeah, but there's one glaring falling player that I'm going to scoop up and not think twice about. I mean, Kyle Pitts should not be on the board, and I'm getting him at the 3-5.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't even see that Pitts was still there. So yeah, I mean, Josh also kind of takes the similar approach where, like, man, those three players in redraft this year, Jamar Chase, Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, that is going to be dynamite for your team. You're definitely going to be behind the 8 ball at quarterback, so you're going to have to probably, take Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, Geno Smith types and fill out your quarterback core that way, and hope that you can kind of like replace that production in the aggregate with those 3 players. But yeah, that is definitely a very strong start in a super flex format. I'm a little nervous about the quarterbacks, but overall, I think you're in a good spot there.
Yeah, no, agreed there. Hey guys, would you do Gibbs, Devontae, Pittman for CD, Deontay in a first? So if I'm equating this give or take, I just want the CD side pretty easily, because for the most part, I would rather Pittman than Deontay, but they're pretty much a wash in terms of like tier of wide receiver asset, in my opinion. And then I'm evaluating it, CD in a first versus Gibbs and Devontae. Like, I would say the difference between Gibbs and CD would probably be a back end type of first anyway. So if we're looking at it, it would be 2 firsts for Devontae, and I would just rather have the 2 firsts. So give me CD side.
See, I think I'm going to disagree on this one. I think I prefer the Gibbs side. I think you're getting more foundational assets in this trade than you would be in the other side, because, I mean, I don't know where the 2025 first is, but let's pretend it's mid to late. Gibbs is a foundational running back asset. Devontae Smith, while he's not on the level of CeeDee Lamb, is still going to be like a wide receiver 2 from a redraft perspective, and then like a back end wide receiver 1 in Dynasty. Pittman versus Deontay. I love Deontay. You guys know this, but I still view Pittman as more valuable on the market. So for me, I think the difference between Gibbs and CD isn't big enough for me to favor the CD side of that, because I think they're the 2 best assets in this deal. I think the difference between Devontae in the first and Pittman and Deontay make up for that difference between Gibbs and CD, in my opinion.
That's fair. I will say the star power of CD and the buying power of the 2025 first, because the way I kind of look at it is it's basically if you need depth, you'll probably go with the top side. If you want to buy some star power, I think the bottom side. Reason being is because I'm looking what I can do with that 2025 first, and what can I get with it. Can I get maybe mid-season, try to get a Cooper Kupp type? Can I go buy, a Devontae Adams if for the first couple of weeks he's struggling with, Jimmy Garoppolo or hypothetically whoever's on the field at quarterback? Like, can I buy a veteran with that help? Because I'm assuming if you have either side of this package, given the type of players you have, you're most likely in a winning window. So for me personally, it all kind of depends what type of buying power that 2025 first has for you, because I do think you can buy some production with it.
Yeah, that's not a bad one. I'm going to grab I think I'm going to build this out kind of like a 1-year punt, just because I have Bryce Young as my second quarterback here, and I see 2 very young receivers that I love. So I'm going to grab Drake. I was hoping Smith had fallen to me, but I'm going to grab Drake London and Jackson Smith and Jigba here to be able to build out potentially like a house money team out of the startup / 1-year punt. I'm expecting a lot of you guys to take wide receivers in the next coming picks. So I realize that, I probably need to grab some wide receivers, or I'm going to be, behind the 8 ball at that position. Maybe if some running back talent slips to me at 5'12", I consider it, but most likely I'm going to grab those wide receivers. It'd be really a close discussion between Jahmyr Gibbs and the 2 guys that I selected, though, because I think Gibbs definitely, and he does go with the next pick. He definitely should be going right in this range too.
He wasn't going to fall to 4.8. I don't know why I went, but yeah, that's a good value there at the 4.2. Turn away Stafford, late first, late second. People are ridiculous if they're selling
that's
for that.
Dude, we could make an entire video of just ridiculous Kyler Murray trades. Like we should literally just make a video called Kyler Murray's ridiculously inexpensive and just make the entire video about it. I mean, that was essentially the whole plot line of our Grade My Dynasty Trades video that we did last week. Was like half of the trades had Kyler Murray in them, and they were all really inexpensive acquisitions there. Dan says, I went Ramondre in the 3rd and Jacobs in the 4th. My first pick was Wilson at the 110 and Cup in the 2-1.
A one quarterback?
Does he say if it's a one quarterback or not?
Is this a one quarterback or a super flex, Dan? Let us know.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, Dan, if this is even if this is a one quarterback league, I still think you went a little too early on the productive assets.
Yeah.
I think in a dynasty format, you probably like, I like what you've done so far in this draft where you have Burrow, you have Amon-Ra, you have Cooper Kupp. I think that's better value on Kupp. Kupp at the 2-1, even if that's a one quarterback, I think that's just still a slight bit too early. I would much rather grab the foundational wide receivers in that range, maybe Amon-Ra, Waddle, whoever is at the back end of the first round. So for me, I'm not a huge fan of the strategy that you employed, but I mean, at least you're sticking to something, right? You take Kupp, you're immediately in a winning window. Ramondre and Jacobs will help you win potentially.
It is a one quarterback, by the way. So, I mean, looking at the Wilson pick, I really like the value on Wilson at the 10 spot there. Like you kind of mentioned with Kupp, even in a one quarterback, still early for us. And in terms of Ramondre and Jacobs in the 4th and 3rd, if you want to go with one of them, I would have been okay with that, but I just don't like getting both because having 2 running backs that are pretty volatile from a liquidity standpoint on the market in your first 4 picks doesn't really leave you much value accumulation. Like I personally would have taken one of them, maybe taken a wide receiver and then seen.
You could take a quarterback too, even in a one quarterback league at the 3-4 turn area. You might still be able to get a Justin Fields or even somebody potentially better than that, Lamar Jackson, somebody like that.
Yeah, no, I agree there. I agree. I'm actually back on the clock here. So the running backs, it looks like they're getting kind of picked apart. Wide receiver, are we still looking at some niceness? Devontae Adams. My team's young. Do I want to take that? I could go with Devontae. Let me just take a look if there's anybody I'm missing. You know what? Let me get Devontae Adams. Let's transition this thing. Kyle Pitts is still going to give me top 5 level tight end points. And obviously if Lawrence and Watson are healthy, they're going to be top quarterbacks. So let's transition this thing knowing the room now.
Yeah, and that's the key point there, right? Because your team, Lawrence, Watson, and Pitts, could have gone either way. You have 2 quarterbacks that are young but will still be productive. You have a tight end that's young but can still be productive. You have the luxury then of saying, hey, I want to, like, if half of this league was going rebuild, only like 2 or 3 teams were going rebuild and the rest of this league was going contender, you could have gone with Christian Watson or Quentin Johnston or Jerry Jeudy or somebody a little bit younger to keep yourself more liquid. But instead, you kind of notice most of us, at least, maybe it stands like 3 or 4 teams, are going with more of a productive struggle type of build. So it definitely really makes sense for you there. I will warn you, Bargustus, if Kyler slipped to the 4th round and Dak slid to the 4th round, you may have a little bit of trouble offloading some of those quarterbacks because he's the one who took the 3 QBs right off the bat. So it might be a little difficult to offload those guys, just knowing that your league is undervaluing them. But that could be just those 2 players being undervalued. If the rest of the quarterback market was highly valued, it might just be those 2 players.
That's what I was going to say. It's most likely that case if like you said, much after the 1st round. So I'm assuming there were still 1st round quarterbacks. If there's that much of a discrepancy between Kyler, Dak versus the other quarterbacks, what I would suggest is if you have one of the other quarterbacks, now try to see if you can get Jamar Chase plus on it, Justin Jefferson plus on it. So you still have a foundational building block, but now you got some value at your quarterback position. Because realistically, if you have Dak and Kyler, if you can spend whatever opportunity cost that you're holding with one of those elite guys at the top of the 1st round and transition it into wide receiver points, that'd probably be in your best interest. Not to mention, like I said, the majority of those 1st round quarterbacks are probably getting you Jefferson or Chase plus, like with a significant plus.
Yeah, I mean, it's an underrated aspect of league market evaluation to just look at the startup board and see where players slid to. If a player that should go in the 2nd or the 3rd round, like Kyler and Dak, slide to round 4, it means the whole league was lower on them, not just the guy who drafted said player. So yeah, you get a good idea of what players are buy lows, especially if you just had the startup draft by looking at the startup board. Because I mean, certain leagues are going to be higher on Kyler Murray. Certain leagues are going to be lower on Kyler Murray. It all depends on the league market. So if you weren't the one who drafted Kyler, chances are the guy who did draft him is probably not all that excited about it either, because the whole league kind of passed on him multiple times.
Yep. No, I agree there.
I don't really have a take in this. I actually like both.
I think we actually talked about it before and we disagreed because I said crunchy and you said smooth.
I like Smooth better, but I like both. Like, I don't really
Respectable.
have a huge like
I'm the same
oh,
way.
crunchy peanut butter is for simps take or anything. Like, I
No.
like both of them.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. By the way, I'm on the clock here. I believe Brandon Ayuk would be my highest guy. Is there more of a win now? Oh, damn, Ski. You actually took Ridley from me. And Judy went? Come on. You guys are doing
And
me dirty right now. I think I'm
you'd
just
go
going to go
Debo.
Brandon Ayuk. I don't
Oh,
know.
is Ayuk
He's
still on the
sketched
board?
to me.
I
I'm going to go Brandon
honestly
Ayuk.
don't even hate going ETN there. I probably would have went ETN if I was
I
you.
did not even see he was available.
Yeah.
Yeah. That. Okay. All right.
I love what Josh did, by the way. We've talked about his team already with Chase, Bijan, and Taylor, and you get Daniel Jones and Kirk Cousins to anchor your QBs. That's pretty solid.
Yep. I'm actually mad at myself for not seeing ETN.
We haven't drafted yet, and Jerome Ford is still available on the waiver. Should I pick him up with a late pick? So I saw a report from Mary Kay Cabot that the Browns will probably add a running back of some kind. So yeah, I mean, you want to draft Jerome Ford as a stash by all means, but I wouldn't be spending up for him by any means either. Chat, Ayuk and 24 first or Devontae in a 2024 second. I'll take Devontae in the second, I think.
Ayuk in a first or Devontae?
Depends where the one's going to be. If it's, I'm assuming it's a mid to late first. If it's a mid to late first, I think I'll take Devontae in the 2.
Yeah, this is probably a fair valuation, I would say. I don't mind the aspect of down tiering and getting a better pick, but at the same time, it's like that feels a little bit too rich for me because, again, Devontae Smith, I believe, is what my wide receiver 12 or 13 in Dynasty. Ayuk more so in the early 20s. So if you could have gotten this for like one of the win now wide receivers, like if this was Tyreek Hill or someone like that, I'd be more willing to do that than Devontae.
Yeah, for sure. I'm coming up with my next pick. ETN at the 5.9 is pretty crazy value. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm
not
sick
even
to my stomach. I passed.
I'm not even like super high on ETN, but I actually really like that value there. Stefan says thoughts on the Minnesota backfield. I drafted Madison and handcuffed with McBride in my 12th round startup. I think that's really early on McBride, unless Madison's who you got in the 12th round. I hope that was where you got Madison and not McBride.
Please tell me you didn't take McBride in the 12th round.
Yeah, I really hope that that's where you got Madison and not
McBride.
Anyways, should I grab Chandler as well? I think you're probably going overkill if you grab Chandler. Chandler's just not good, so just you're fine with Madison and McBride.
Yeah, save your roster spot.
Smooth is for children and women. Jesus. What do we? Okay, I'm actually on the clock here. What are we doing with Jameson Williams and Rashad Bateman? I think I'm buying Rashad Bateman and selling Jameson Williams is where I'm at with those two guys.
Well, I mean, the problem with selling Jameson Williams is that will he get you future first in equity? I don't think he will. So at that point, I would just hold because I do think he's got value accumulation. Like if he was still going for like the 109 in Superflex at that point, it's like, okay, yeah, that's an easy sell because it's like you're getting rid of the risk and still getting a first round asset kind of as a re-roll. But if he's going as like the 201, 202 valuation at this point, I would just rather take the first round wide receiver upside.
Yeah, I'm on an interesting spot here. If I had known that that these running backs would have been on the board, I might have gone with some more win now type of assets on my last pick. I'm gonna grab Jahan Dotson here, and I'm gonna grab. I want to just draft Dalton Kincaid because I never select draft on him. But honestly, I think I'll probably still have some decent tight end options available. So I'm gonna just go by my rankings here, which would be Jahan Dotson and DJ Moore as my next 2 rated players.
Yeah, that's a great move. For the record, by the way, I actually low-key am kind of glad that I got Brandon Ayuk because I forgot I said it as a 3 wide receiver start. So that's at least good for me. But yeah,
Hall before CMC isn't great. I personally would take Breece Hall over Christian McCaffrey in Dynasty
pretty easily and probably by at least a round and a half.
Yeah, ended up trading down in a few spots to get 2 extra thirds and took Pitts and Devontae there along with Bryce Young. Wow. So I mean that's really good value in the startup to get 2 extra thirds out of whatever your few spots that you traded down. Because like I mean, he said he had Mahomes, Bryce Young, and I don't know how you got all these startup picks to be honest, but I think you got some great value there. If anybody's curious why we're like lower on Christian McCaffrey, definitely go check out the running back agent touch Apex video because just because Christian McCaffrey stayed healthy for the most part last year doesn't mean he's at an even greater risk now this year to deal with injuries. And the touches and the age that he's at, it's going to really tank his value. If Christian McCaffrey missed 5 games next year with a hamstring injury, like how far in value does he go down? Like a lot.
I mean, like if he missed games, like he would probably be going in this 5-6 turn area. Like realistically, Najee Harris is a 5th round pick. Kenneth Walker's a 5th round pick. Josh Jacobs a 5th-round pick. I don't see any way that if McCaffrey had a bad year, he'd be going in the round before.
Yeah, well, like, and even the downside risk factor of it, like that you kind of just outlined there, Kenneth Walker, if he's like a 50-50 split with Charbonnet this year, which I think is like worst case scenario for him, he's still probably going around the 5th, 6th round this time next year. Like, I don't imagine he would go like way, way lower than that. So for me, I think the downside risk, obviously the upside for McCaffrey is that he's like a league winning redraft running back, but the downside risk is that he's potentially like in the Nick Chubb area of rankings, Derrick Henry, where he just kind of went there this time next year.
God damn it. Did I actually get Brando? Did you need another running back?
Yikes.
Okay.
I mean, you could go Dame here. You could go Dobbins.
I'm not going with any of those guys. I'm just going to stack the wide receivers.
Yeah, I would be going if in your situation, Godwin would be my highest rated receiver.
I just don't, Brando, you have to start 3 wide receivers. What do you have 4 running backs?
You hate to see it. Just got Patty round 1, Watson round 3, and Kyler round 5. Yeah, geez, that's pretty crazy that you just got those 3 quarterbacks. Hey boys, how's it going? What's going on, Leonardo?
Well,
how much do you push up tight ends a full point tight end premium 2 point per reception? So for me in that format, Pitts is probably around the mid-2nd round area. Like I would take Pitts over once Garrett Wilson's off the board, I would probably take Pitts over Olave in that format, who's my wide receiver 6 in Dynasty. And then I would also take Pitts over any running back not named Bijan Robinson, probably. Maybe Breece Hall's in the same kind of vicinity, but Pitts would be really, really close. And then as soon as Bryce Young and Anthony Richardson are off the board is probably when I would take Pitts from a tight end standpoint, from a startup board standpoint.
Who'd you mention? Pitts versus Olave. Who'd you say?
In a 2 point tight end premium, I would take
Pitts.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't see the tight end premium part. But real talk, non-tight end premium, who would you take valuation-wise?
Oh, Olave. I would take Olave in a non-tight end premium. Even in a 1.5, I think it's pretty close.
I would take Pitts in 1.5.
Yeah, I think any kind of tight end premium, I slightly lean Pitts. He'd be like, if you view Pitts as a wide receiver and put him in the wide receiver landscape, I think he'd be like wide receiver 6 in a 1.5 or a 2.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. I mean, in a 2, you could probably argue that I would take him over AJ Brown in a 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he would be wide receiver 4 then for me in a 2. In a 1.5, I'd take AJ Brown, but
yeah, that's like interesting. What round do you consider trading picks for 2024 rookie picks? Curious how that breaks down for 2024 first and second rounds if you still startup picks. So, for me, the best answer to this question is in our trade value chart, 100%, because the players going in that area are the players that we would trade for random first or mid to late first or whatever. But I would say mid to late potential 2024 first, like if a contender is trying to move up and get another, contending asset, which is typically what happens when you're in a startup and somebody wants to sell their first, I would say I'm looking probably in this 5th round range. If I was at the 5-10 where Najee Harris went, I would sell that pick straight up for a 2024 first. But when you get into the like Jordan Addison, DK Metcalf area, like I think that's a little too early to be selling that pick straight for 2024 capital. But if you got like a 9th round startup pick and a 2024 first, then it's a little bit more stomachable.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I am back on the clock here. Nothing really I like there.
Damn, I was hoping Goddard would fall back to me.
Who do I have highest here? Cooper or I mean, I would now it would be Pickens probably on face value, but I think I'm gonna go with Cooper because my team's kind of geared to win.
Yeah, makes sense.
I don't mind him in the 7th round. You know what? Like, it feels like we've been so anti Amari Cooper to the point where like we wouldn't touch it, but at the same time, it's like you're still getting the number 1 for an offense that we project to be very good. I already have Deshaun Watson, so I'm making the bet on the Cleveland offense in this startup scenario, and then I'm getting the number 1 target on that offense. So, although he's volatile, he's always dealing with injuries, he's inconsistent. Like at this point, I will stomach the potential wide receiver 13 overall finish that he could have this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this range, if you're building, I think part of the reason why I would have went with ETN where your Ayuk pick is knowing that in this area of the draft, because a lot of people are going rebuilding, this is going to be the area of the draft where the young wide receivers start to dry up, and Amari Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Mike Evans are smash picks, and they're going to be your flex spots or your wide receiver 3 and 4 and 5 and shit. I mean,
definitely in hindsight, like I would have went with ETN over Ayuk, but like I said, I didn't always see him, so that was the issue at hand there. But regardless, I mean, it's still 3 wide receiver start, 6 overall in terms of wide receivers and flexes. So I mean, you could just fill up.
Yeah. Ambiguity. I'm going Addison there. As much as process would kind of dictate that you want to favor the guy with NFL production over the rookie, as much as I like Addison, I think Addison was like well above what I thought of Watson as a rookie. To the point that I would be comfortable projecting Addison ahead of Watson, especially knowing that the Vikings are going to throw as much as they're going to throw, and Thielen was so high in route participation, he's no longer there. And of course, there was most of the offseason, Addison was actually my wide receiver 1 in rookie drafts. JSN only edged him out once like we got testing numbers and that kind of thing and reception perception stuff. So for me, yeah, I really like Addison over Watson there. I actually am surprised that Kincaid fell back to me, but I'm going to grab him here in this 1.5 tight end premium. Again, I'm looking for like a value accumulation type of team, and I've got quite a bit of it on this roster. I am just going to hyper punt the running back position most likely here. So
hey, join the club.
Yeah, no kidding. In this spot, I'm not a George Pickens guy, but I think he's the best available receiver, especially considering what my team looks like at this current moment in time. Quarterback wise, I actually, I'm not going to go with George Pickens because I'm actually going to take Jordan Love, who I actually think is a better value at this point in time than George Pickens even is.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Where do we leave off in terms of comments? Oh, I
got it here. Dan said he got Herbert at some point in the 5th, and then he got Pacheco and Watson. I'm assuming that's the Deshaun Watson, not Christian Watson, but I ended up getting Herbert, London, Ridley, Allen, and Pacheco after. Yeah, so I mean, you built out your team pretty well for a contending window for sure. And I don't know how the hell you got London that late. Also, that's ridiculous. The fact that he went that late, but I think you're in a pretty good spot there.
Like round 6?
Yeah, I must have been that late, like in a 1 quarterback draft too.
Wait, Pacheco went. No, there's no way, right? Pacheco went before fucking London.
I guess so.
I'm confused, but regardless, if that's the case, that is ridiculous.
Yeah, had 110 and went Garrett Wilson, then Waddle got Pitts in round 3. So okay, this must have been a 1 quarterback draft. I'm assuming.
You smashed us out of the park, assuming this is a 1 quarterback. Like what? 110 Garrett Wilson, great value in a 1 quarterback. Waddle at the 201, reasonable value there. Pitts in the 3rd round in a 1 quarterback. I would take him in the 2nd in a super flex. And then Richardson in the 7th, 1 quarterback, the upside that he has. I don't mind taking the swing there. I think he fucking smashed this, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, he says he's a Falcons fan, so he likes himself some Pitts, but I think you were pretty even keel in that one. I wouldn't have blamed you at all for taking Pitts where you took Waddle.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Like at the 202 or whatever that was. So the fact that you got Pitts with your 3rd pick is pretty crazy.
I have Pitts ranked higher, so yeah.
Yeah. 10-team Lassiter. Is this a Ladster remix? 10-team Superflex start 9 for 2024 first. Too early, too late. Mahomes, Love, Lance quarterbacks. Last year of rebuilding. Move Love and Dobbins for Kyler. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Give me Kyler Murray
Heartbeat. There. Yeah, easy.
Yeah, you know what would be awesome about this too? Because if you could get your team next year, because obviously it looks like you're kind of in like a house money situation right now. You get Kyler and Mahomes as your top quarterbacks with Lance as your upside piece. You don't need to spend the early first that you're going to have on a quarterback. So that frees you up to spend the later one on Harrison probably and sell the other one to whoever wants Caleb Williams or Drake May.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like you're in a good spot there. Hard or soft tacos? Aren't soft tacos basically just burritos?
They are, but so my girlfriend is from Mexico, like born
That's fair.
Mexican passport and all that good stuff. So I exclusively eat tacos with corn tortillas. So they're technically soft tacos, but they're made of corn. So
fair. Okay.
And if I eat a flour tortilla, like I get banished, basically. So I'm a soft taco guy, but they got to be corn.
I respect it. Also, I just scooped up the value on Mike Williams. I'm going to be so in on this Chargers offense. I cannot wait when people start to realize like, oh shit, this team's actually going to throw the ball 700 times this year. Justin Herbert isn't a 25 touchdown on 699 attempt quarterback. Like he will have some positive touchdown regression. He's probably going to throw to 40 to 45 touchdowns. Who's going to catch 8 to 10 of them? Mike Williams. And you're getting him in the 8th round of a startup at this point. Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah, Mike Williams is going to be a great option, I think, for dynasty contenders this year. I feel like we've already put out videos like contending trade targets, but we might have to do like an updated version as we enter training camp because there is a lot of slander on, like the 2 guys that you just drafted, Amari Cooper and Mike Williams, slander. And Godwin too. Like the 3 that you just drafted, they're all good contending win now wide receivers right now. And you can get them for like guys that have not proven anything. Like
Yeah.
Kadarius Toney right now is more valuable than Mike Williams in most dynasty leagues.
Well, I mean, I had to scroll under Tony's name to get Mike Williams on the
That's what I
draft
mean.
report.
Like you're getting Kadarius Toney, if he turns into something, will be more valuable than Mike Williams. But the guy has like 400 receiving yards in 3 seasons.
Yeah, it is a mess. Crunchy is a win now asset, but Smooth is a long-term option. Always going to be consistently good. Yeah, like Crunchy, if a Crunchy is well done, it's got more league winning potential. But Smooth, I'd probably say, is more of a safer projection. I would say it's kind of like comparing, your Anthony Richardson of peanut butters to your CJ Strouds. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Got a coworker committing a food crime making Nutella. Dude, Nutella is chocolate. Nobody can convince me otherwise.
I like Nutella.
People that eat Nutella and they're like, it's hazelnut spread. I'm like, dog, it's got like a pinch of hazelnut in it. It's literally chocolate.
It's melted chocolate. Yeah.
It's melted chocolate on bread.
No, like if I'm at the cottage and like they got like the breakfast club there and I might have like a Nutella and peanut butter bagel there, but it's not like it's like a day-to-day snack of mine. You know what I mean? Like, but like, yeah, if I'm at the cottage and I want something quick that can fucking get me before I go play fucking mini putt or something like that, I'll just down a Nutella and peanut butter sandwich. It's not a big deal.
True.
But other than that, there's like no nutritional value.
Oh yeah. ETN and Walker after Ayuk is gross. Yeah, I mean, I personally would value ETN over Ayuk and potentially Walker as well. I think they have
I wouldn't take Walker over him.
They have more positional insulation even than Ayuk does, just because they have a chance to rise a little bit more up the running back position.
Yeah, I'm also just high on Brandon Ayuk, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I am too, but even still, I would prefer ETN and Walker. I have Ayuk probably higher than you do. He's my wide receiver 19.
Oh, you raised him then. Well, I have the running backs lower, to be fair. Again, I do think I have the running backs, or not Walker, but at least ETN over him. But
Ayuk is the first wide receiver I have after the win now receivers in Jordan Addison.
Really? You have him over
of
Judy?
That Judy Pittman like area? He's the first one that I have.
I have Judy highest of those guys. I have Brandon Ayuk as my 48th overall player. I have ETN higher. I have Walker lower. Yeah, no. So I took him exactly where I should have, because I got him 505. He's my 412 ranked player.
Yeah. I dealt Jamison Williams and Jordan Addison for 3 firsts. What do you both think? That's a great return. As much as I love Addison, I don't love Jamison Williams. So even if it was 2 1s for Addison and 1-1 for JMO, I would take that easily.
Yep, and this is where I will snag my running back. And Aaron Jones in the 9th round, PPR league, I'm all for that.
Yeah, so Danny's going with the prototype. So it's funny that we talk about like 0 RB and hero RB. And actually, ironically, I'm probably going to do a video like sometime this week on the RB dead zone and like how it affects like hero RB and 0 RB strategies. Because like the last 2 years, we've always talked about, going light at running back and all that kind of stuff. But this year, especially if underdog ADP is any indication, it looks like the positions have now finally balanced themselves out. And that might differ in your own home leagues, but you're getting great running back options in round 3 now. The running back dead zone has like young upside Damian Pierce, J.K. Dobbins types. Like it's not the same running back landscape that we were talking about like 2 years ago, where Mike Davis was a 4th round pick. Like we're not seeing that at all anymore. But in Dynasty, I still think it's effective to go 0 RB or hero RB, because the running back landscape hasn't really changed a ton. Like you're still seeing high, young running backs go highly. You're still seeing win now running backs go highly. So for the most part, you can get a discount on, redraft projections that might have a little bit of warts if they're a little bit older, like Aaron Jones.
Yep. I dealt JMO and Addison for we
already broke that down. Would you guys do a league with all the content creators on the Fantasy Flock Network? Yeah. So we haven't officially like done this yet, but we are for sure probably going to do a redraft league, if not a dynasty startup. I would love to do a dynasty startup, but
next offseason maybe.
Yeah, I mean your boys undefeated in like content creator stuff, because I won the underdog draft last year. With all the incubators. So we'll see. Like we'll definitely be doing something. I'm not exactly sure what it'll be yet, but we will be doing something.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a lot of fun. I took Gibbs over Taylor. I'm not sure if I made the right decision. I honestly am contemplating putting Gibbs. I probably will put Gibbs over Taylor. I'm worried about a 24-year-old running back that doesn't have a clear projection for his offense. At least I know with Gibbs, even if he tears his ACL, the guy's not going down.
I can't I'll take Jonathan Taylor over Gibbs any day of the week.
I'm taking Gibbs, I think. Honestly, I think I'm going to make this change. I think the value insulation of Gibbs versus Taylor is too much of the market right now. Like if Taylor Well, if Taylor fucking gets hurt, then he's gonna be a 25-year-old running back that probably drops 2 rounds in ADP. I don't
That's
want to
fair.
take the risk.
I think I'm on the clock right now too, and I think I'm just gonna be that guy at the moment because the quarterback value's too much. And I mean, like, am I an advocate for hoarding quarterbacks, going Mahomes, Bryce Young, Jordan Love, and Will Levis? Not really. But if Love and Levis hit, they're gonna be 4th-round startup picks this time next year, if not
Oh,
higher than
100%.
that. So for me, as a productive struggle, complete punt, no running back production in sight, it's pretty ridiculous for me that these guys were all on the board. Do I do it again and take Sam Howell is my question, because I might also do that as well.
That's a little overkill.
To me, I think that's a little overkill, especially knowing that,
There's a big difference between Howell and Levis, in my opinion. That's how
yeah, I think there is a big difference. I mean, there's not a massive difference in my own rankings, but I do think there's a pretty big difference on the market right now. I'm going to take Josh Downs here. I think he'd be my highest rated wide receiver, so I'm going to grab him.
For the record, too, with Levis, I took him at the 705 in the recent startup we did. I think that was a steal, honest to God. I didn't even realize Levis was available. So good pick there. He's my 70th overall player in terms of where Howell ranks. He's my 109th overall player. So I do have a pretty solid difference there.
Yeah, I have Howell inside my top like 90, I'm pretty sure. So I have him a lot higher than you do.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I ended up getting London and Ridley in the middle rounds. I feel good about that. Yeah, you should be for sure. How are we feeling about Lance and Purdy? I mean, depends which one of us you ask, because I'm Team Purdy and
Ew.
Danny's Team Lance. So you're gonna get a different answer depending on who you ask. I mean, my side of the story, the whole coaching staff and front office seems to be hyping up my guy versus Danny's side of the story is like, we'll wait and see if he's even functional.
I mean, the way I look at it is who's more likely to win you a week, who's more likely to win you a league. And it's like, yeah, like,
but here's the
Brock
thing, though.
Purdy,
Here's the thing that's different about that statement.
What?
Number one, Trey Lance can also be the one to lose you a dynasty startup because you still have to draft him pretty high, and he's going to lose a lot of value if he's no longer the starter in San Francisco. And two, even if Brock Purdy is Kirk Cousins, he's going to rise a shit ton in startup value.
Sure, but he's got a ceiling of like the 5th round. The thing with Trey Lance, right, is
I don't think so. I honestly think if Brock Purdy does what he did last year, he would be a 4th round startup pick this time next year.
I'd rather not. But with Trey Lance, by the way, so 604 here, I doubt he even goes this high in the majority of leagues, given the pessimism that I see on him. He's probably in most leagues going to be a 7th or 8th round pick. And at that point, it's like, you're getting a 23-year-old quarterback that hasn't done anything to prove to you that he's bad. Yes, I understand you're going to argue, well, he hasn't played, so he hasn't proven that he's good. He hasn't proven that he's a bad quarterback. He just literally got hurt. If he has an opportunity, even if it's not in San Francisco, to start games somewhere, the guy's going to be a 50 to 70 rushing yard per game type of quarterback. The guy's got arm talent. The guy's upside is quite literally to be a top 15 overall pick. I mean, we're taking Anthony Richardson in 203, which we should be. I think Trey Lance could be right in that range come next year if he proves what he can do. Because realistically, from a fantasy perspective, there's nothing standing in the way of him being a 22-plus point per game quarterback.
Well, I mean, the insights and the clues that we have is that he's probably not very good. Otherwise, the coaching staff would just be saying,
"We don't know that
quarterback. Though. He's just been injured."
That's making a subjective assumption on it. Like we haven't seen him yet. You know what I mean?
Right. I suppose. But if CJ Stroud went down, you just got auto picked James Cook.
Awesome.
If CJ Stroud went down, the Houston Texans wouldn't just start the backup and continue to talk up the backup. They would say CJ Stroud is our starter. He's been injured.
Well, I mean, if the backup quarterback went on a hot run and got them to the 2nd seed in the playoffs, like there would change of tunes would happen. Because let's not forget, come week 6 last year, everybody was still saying the same thing. Yeah, this is still Trey Lance's team. This is still Trey Lance's team. This is still Trey Lance's team. It's like, yeah, they were winning games because they have elite coaching and an elite roster. It's not like Brock Purdy was this fucking needle move. Don't get me wrong. He played good game management, Alex Smith level football, but it's not like he was like this complete world beater that took the league by storm.
I don't know. Rookie quarterback averaging almost 8 yards per attempt is pretty fucking impressive, in my opinion.
There's a lot more context.
Oh, of course. It's a great team situation. You and I could probably average 6.5 yards attempts, but
if you guys want to know how crazy the situation, both roster-wise and coaching-wise, is of the San Francisco 49ers, combining their last, 5 years of quarterback play with Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy, they've been top 5 in EPA plus CPOE composite as a team quarterback, quote-unquote.
Oh, yeah. No,
the 49ers are the only
how easy the situation is to play quarterback.
It's ridiculous. By the way, I am so sick to my stomach that the CPU just gave me fucking James Cook because I wasn't looking.
I mean, it's not a terrible value on James Cook.
Give me Montgomery or Gibson or something like that, to be honest, or Brian
Yeah.
Robinson even. Like,
Space Enfield says, Superflex half PPR 4-point per passing touchdown. I have Lamar, Fields, and Richardson. Hell of a quarterback core. Should I trade Fields or Richardson for a less volatile quarterback if I'm trying to compete? If you're weak at other positions, you don't necessarily need a 3-stack like that, and you wanted to sell Richardson. Richardson would be the one that I would sell because he's more volatile than Lamar and Fields, in my opinion. If you wanted to sell Richardson for Tua Tagovailoa and a wide receiver 1 in Dynasty or something like that to get better at wide receiver and inherently still have a good third quarterback that you can rely on, then I'm fine with that. But I wouldn't just sell for a less volatile quarterback. Like I wouldn't just do it for that reason. I would do it if you're weak at other positions and you're trying to improve your wide receiver core, your tight end core, something like that.
well, I mean, I guess it depends. It's like if you're trading for a quote unquote volatile quarterback, does that mean you're getting? I guess Kyler Murray and Deshaun Watson are volatile.
Well,
So
I would just hold if you're going for
I
another
agree, but
quarterback.
that's
but
what I'm saying.
I see the logic to downgrading at quarterback 3 because you don't necessarily need that good of a 3-stack of quarterbacks and getting a better wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 or whatever. If you could get Drake London and Tua Tagovailoa for Anthony Richardson, maybe even plus, you might be able to get more than that. Then I would be, considering a move like that if I was weak at wide receiver.
It's gonna sound disgusting. I think I'm gonna take Desmond Ridder over Mac Jones.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Who are you guys taking in Dynasty right now? Desmond Ridder or Mac Jones? Keep in mind that Desmond Ridder actually ran in the 4.4s at the combine last year, which is pretty crazy. We didn't really see him run very much, but it is kind of an underrated part of him that he could be a 400 rushing yard, 5 touchdown quarterback, and it wouldn't really shock me. And we're talking about a coach in Arthur Smith who took cast off Ryan Tannehill and turned him into a top 10 redraft quarterback for like 3 straight years.
Oddly enough, I mean, Desmond Ridder from a profile standpoint, obviously people forget just how athletic Ryan Tannehill was. Like, this was a guy who played wide receiver spurts in college at Texas A&M back in 2011. So once he got drafted, I believe it was the 2012 draft he was in with Luck and Griffin.
Yeah.
Yeah, once he got drafted, I mean, like, he's always shown on display an ability to run the ball. Heck, a couple of years ago, I still remember when he first broke out with Tennessee, he had that 8 rushing touchdown season because they kept doing play action on the fucking goal line, and he would have.
Oh, and you don't think number 7, Bijan Robinson's going to intimidate some defenses that you could just pull it if you're Ridder and fucking run it in yourself?
Yeah, it is funny, like, the parallels, because both of them have quote unquote weaker arm talent. Both of them seem like smart, mature type of guys. Both of them are mobile, and both of them, like I said, we already saw what Ryan Tannehill was able to do with Arthur Smith, and like you said, Desmond Ridder kind of fits that profile to be able to. I'm not saying he's a lock to become a Ryan Tannehill level quarterback, because I think Ryan Tannehill might be one of the more underrated quarterbacks in the NFL, top 15-ish level players. So if Ridder's anywhere close to that, I think the Falcons may even have a stranglehold on your guys' division.
Oh, dude, I think they're the best team in the division. 100%.
I agree.
I'm gonna put out a video, or maybe we can both put out a video of offenses that we're targeting, because there's some teams that I just can't stop drafting, like the Jaguars, the Browns, the Falcons. Like, I just love those teams, and I kind of want to just consolidate that into one video and be like, I'm drafting players from these teams.
Well, I mean, we did both of them last year, right? The offenses to target, offenses to avoid. That's a key video that we've done, I think, the past 2 off seasons. So I cannot wait until we get into that.
Yeah, well, I honestly think we should do it a little earlier, though, just because people, we're looking for content right now, especially with best ball drafts starting to be the focus at the moment. Like, I mean, you're stacking up offenses. It makes sense. I'm going to take Sky Moore. I'm going to drink the Kool-Aid a little bit on Sky Moore potentially being the best receiver at minicamp or whatever the quote was that came out the other day. I compared Sky Moore to Christian Kirk coming out of Western Michigan. It wouldn't shock me if his career path was similar to Christian Kirk's, where he looks like a face planner bust after his rookie year, and then he shows something towards the end of his rookie contract and actually becomes a wide receiver 2 in fantasy, which is what Christian Kirk has done to this point. And Sky Moore plays with Patrick Mahomes, so I mean, obviously that would cause him to go up a ton in value. If Sky Moore was wide receiver 34 in points per game this year, how much higher in value is he going in Dynasty?
Probably at least I don't know, honestly. I mean, like maybe at least where Kadarius Toney is going, if not like where Bateman's going. Plus,
I seriously think he'd have a potential to be like in the area of George Pickens and like Deontay Johnson
yeah,
type
I
of.
mean
If
around
he
the
had a
eighth
pretty
round
like if he
area.
had a solid season with flashes and he had some big games, I wouldn't be shocked at all if people are projecting a third-year breakout come this time next year.
Yeah, no, I agree there. Definitely some upside there. Where do we leave off?
Yeah, Jay
Startup.
Folt, we haven't answered that one. He said, "I love
Oh,
buying low on the handcuffs of the age and touch apex running back.
yep.
So do I. So grabbing Elijah Mitchell, Isaiah Spiller for dirt cheap, knowing what's going on with CMC and Eckler. I'm on board with just buying
Uh,
cheap running backs. It's
uh,
appreciate how you.
Brandon, the problem though is that in my opinion, 4 running backs in the first 6 rounds will never be drafting value. Personally,
Yeah,
I just
especially knowing this room, it'll be difficult to shop said running backs.
yeah. Well, like for me personally, even like just looking at some of the micro picks, like Brees Hall, like at that point, why not just take one of the quarterbacks, or why not just take like Garrett Wilson, Austin Eckler? Why not just take one of the wide receivers like Devontae Adams there? Uh, Kenneth Walker and Tony Pollard, I actually do like those picks; those are good valuations. But the other two, not as much. So for me personally, like your team's still good from a structural standpoint, like having the win now assets on it, but some of the actual like micro player takes, in my opinion, are a little bit off in terms of like Brees Hall over Garrett Wilson and Austin Eckler over insert wide receiver X here. Because I do think structurally, in a 3 wide receiver start, having Brown, Evans, and Sutton as your top 3 wide receivers is going to land you in a pickle.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna answer this question, then we'll go over our teams
Yep.
and some of the other teams that we like here, and then we'll speed through the rest of the questions that are on the screen here. So we will answer your question at some point in this video. We'll go for another 20, 30 minutes if we need to. Brian says Superflex Dynasty. I have Herbert and Mahomes. I was offered 2 firsts and Kyler Murray for Herbert. Should I accept it? I think that's
Yeah.
actually an adequate price tag for moving
Well,
off of Herbert.
unless you're like a top 3 team and you have a very, very good chance at winning the championship in year 1, like maybe at
I
that
honestly
point you
would do
hold.
that
But
even if I was.
that's the thing. It's like if you're like the championship favorite, that's the only plausible scenario
If
I
you're the
can maybe see for
championship
not
favorite,
taking.
there's a good chance you have somebody to get you by while Kyler Murray is going.
Probably, yeah. So I mean, I would take it regardless because the value is just way too high. But I do think it's fascinating, like how much less opportunity you have at times when you consider yourself like a hard-on contender.
Yeah, I think the value of Herbert difference between Murray and Herbert is probably one first and probably a late one too. So if either of those first have a chance to be anywhere remotely close to like the middle or the early portion of the round too, I would definitely accept that. So let's look at our teams real quick and then we'll get into some other questions. I basically went full status productive struggle, grabbing Mahomes, Bryce Young, Drake London, Jackson Smith, and Jigba Jahan Dawson. I just went young players, value accumulation. Hopefully 1 year punt, I pick up some, first round picks. If this was a real startup, I probably would have traded down and, tried to accumulate some first rounders and that kind of thing. But, if we have Will Levis and Jordan Love with breakout seasons, probably I sell off one or both of those guys and continue to build out my running back core in the future draft classes. So really like how my team kind of turned out. I'll let you, go over your team and then maybe we'll highlight a team or two that we really like.
Yeah, sure. Oddly enough, I was able to work 2 stacks into this team with Deshaun Watson to Amari Cooper and Desmond Ritter to Kyle Pitts, betting on both of those offenses. Both. So for me, real quick, the only 2 kind of situations that I kind of got left in a bind in were, first of all, as much as I like Brandon Ayuk, if I knew ETM was on the board, would have gone that direction, and that would have changed my running back landscape. And because I would have had ETN instead of Ayuk there, instead of the James Cook pick, I probably would have went with a more win now type of wide receiver. So if we're looking at the board
Gabe
here,
Davis probably.
Gabe
Or
Davis,
Sutton.
a guy like that, I can't even see who would have been available, but
Sutton and
going in
Gabe
that
Davis
realm,
were the
yeah.
ones that went.
Yeah. So let's just say insert one of those guys instead of James Cook and insert ETN instead of Ayuk. And I do think my team would be ready to take it year 1. But because I didn't see ETN available and James Cook is my RB2, you're probably not winning year 1 unless you address that.
Yeah, I'm looking across these other teams here, and I really do like Josh's team with the Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr quarterback core, and then the Chase, Bijan, Jonathan Taylor. Obviously, those guys are pretty strong. I think you faded off a little bit after the first 5 picks. I think I would have preferred, different options with that Pittman pick. You might have gotten sniped on Godwin, but he would have been obviously really good for this team. I
Which
might have gone with like Marquise Brown or something like that. The guy who picked right after you.
got you. Did he ask?
No. I'm just highlighting some of the teams that I liked.
Okay.
I also like Jared's team here. He went with like a productive struggle similar to mine there, and he grabbed Justin Fields, Richardson as his top 2 quarterbacks, Olave, Watson, Judy, Zay Flowers, and then some young upside running backs with J.K. Dobbins and Zach Charbonnet. I like those guys. And then also C-Dub Sox. I like the way he built out a productive struggle as well. Although I wouldn't have taken Josh Jacobs at 5-2. I think it was a pretty good team. And then I'm looking at like some of the contenders that I like. I like the Sources team as well. I like the Jalen Hurts, a little weak at quarterback 2 and 3, but I think Russell Wilson at 9-10 is like pretty good value, I would say. So having Brock Purdy and Russell Wilson as your QB 2 and 3 is not too bad there.
Yep. And I mean, looking at Corey's selections right now, oddly enough, in the first 5 rounds, it basically seems like we are just mirroring each other with the quarterback, tight end, wide receiver. Do really like the value you got there on Henry and Williams, knowing that you're trying to compete. I think that's a solid duo there. Although I will say,
I think he got auto drafted Derrick Henry for what it's worth.
Regardless,
Henry Pollard 100%, but I think he got auto drafted Derrick Henry.
But that's what I mean. Regardless, Henry Pollard, I like the idea of taking your running back there, knowing that you're going to try to want to get some production year 1, given the start that you had. So I do think that was a good pick there. Javonte, I think it's good value on him, though I will say, given your build, I am a little bit nervous if he comes out slow, if he doesn't start the season. Maybe at that point, you take more of an established wide receiver, whether it's a Christian Kirk, George Pickens, someone like that. Maybe you just get a receiver there and then see whatever falls back to you at the 8th or 9th round area. Getting Bateman and Elijah Moore, I like betting on young upside type of wide receivers, and I have a soft spot for both of those guys, so I don't mind that. Evan Ingram, I do say, because you already have Mark Andrews, I probably would have just went with another wide receiver there, knowing it's a 3 wide receiver start format. And then Brian Robinson, I think, is a good value there at the 11-7. So overall, I actually think you did a really good job with this team.
Yeah, I mean, he autoed Javonte as well. If it was me, I probably would have gone Christian Kirk over Javonte Williams and Mike Williams over Rashad Bateman, and then maybe grabbed an ambiguous back where the Elijah Moore pick, or you could have just taken him, and then instead of Evan Ingram, you take James Conner or somebody like that, where you can build out a contender that way. So those are some of the teams that we broke down. Let's get to some questions here, so you guys can get your stuff answered, and then we'll probably hop off of here in the next 15, 20 or so. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat. I'm gonna go back up to where I was at. I'm trying to find it. I think it was Brian was the last question. It was Mr. Keeves that we got to the last question here. Dynasty start 10 half PPR just traded Swift and Foreman for Bateman and a second. I'm a rebuilder. Thoughts?
Easy move.
Yeah, I think Foreman's not worth shit. So it's basically Swift for Bateman in a second. So Bateman and Swift, relatively comparable value in my opinion. Even though Swift has a chance to really accumulate value this year, he also has a chance to not accumulate any value if he's, part of. I saw a report yesterday that like Rashad Penny's gonna be like the lead back there, and they're gonna build the rushing attack around him as long as he's healthy and shit. And then getting the 2 is obviously good for you as a rebuilder.
Yeah, I mean, not to mention, too, that's not even talking about the potential breakout that Bateman can have. He's in an ambiguous wide receiver core on a team that wants to throw the ball more with a solidified franchise quarterback. I understand people are wary right now because apparently he got like a cortisone shot like a week ago, and people are like, oh, why is he still dealing with the injuries now? It's like, okay, we're early in fucking training camp. The guy just doesn't want to feel any pain entering the season. I don't care what he does in the offseason. As long as he can play week 1, as long as he's healthy week 1, getting snaps on the outside in the Lamar Jackson Ravens-led offense, like he's got every opportunity to be a 1,000-yard wide receiver. And I think he's still 23 years old, going to be 24 at the most. Like at that point, if you're getting a potential breakout candidate in a room that outside of Mark Andrews doesn't have any real solidified target competition, I understand Odell Beckham, Zay Flowers are there, but any one of those 3, in my opinion, could be the next in the pecking order after Mark Andrews.
Yeah, I'm looking at Bateman's game logs right now too, and the guy's played 17 career games, which is a full season, and he has 800 yards and 3 touchdowns, which if he had that as a full season with 96 targets, too, think about if he was a rookie receiver who had 96 targets, 800 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And again, that's also keeping in mind that there's like 3 or 4 games in there where he played like 15% of the snaps as well. And a couple, like only a few games where he played over like 80, 90%. And in some of those games, he went like 7 for 58 on 10 targets against the Rams and, a couple games like that. He's kind of an interesting buy at this point in time because we all know he was like a pretty solid prospect and was deserving to go at the end of the first round where he went. So he's definitely an interesting, the Baltimore Ravens receiver core. The only thing I know for sure is that I don't want Odell Beckham Jr. I want Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman because they're the young guys. But I think Odell helps those guys because he's a veteran. He knows how to, run routes, and he can teach these guys how to play.
Well, it's funny enough. I'm glad you kind of mentioned that too. Bateman actually showed some pretty damn good efficiency this year. So 15 receptions, 285 yards on the 28 targets he received. Very, very efficient numbers, despite none of those games having over a 70% snap share. So what that tells me is he came into the year banged up last year, was still showing efficient talent at the wide receiver position, and then ultimately he tried to return back in week 8, I believe, against your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Ended up not finishing that game, ended up not finishing for the rest of the season. So for me personally, it kind of looks like a guy that anytime he's been quote unquote healthy, he's shown flashes, but I don't even necessarily know if we've actually seen him fully healthy quite yet.
Yeah, and like we can't predict injuries with Bateman. As long as he doesn't have anything that he's like actually dealing with coming into training camp and coming into the season, like he's a guy that I think is a good value in all formats, redraft and dynasty. Joe says about to start a new dynasty superflex home league. Half the guys are dynasty noobs. How do you approach the startup? I mean, again, follow the videos that we've talked about in Dynasty 101. Go to that playlist, and I would suggest just binge watching most of them. But I would say monitor your league format, stay flexible early on, look at how your league mates are drafting, especially the dynasty noobs who are probably going to draft more redraft centric teams. Trading down definitely will be optimal in that kind of format if that's how those players behave. And also make sure you're kind of like I said, staying flexible early on and seeing how your league is reacting to the new format. And definitely check out those videos because I feel like I explained it way better in those.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and I've talked about like exploiting your market value, dynasty trade secrets, etc. there that you can use as a nugget. But one of the main things in more newbie type of rooms is if you can somehow get this thing into a house money type of state by year 2, then you've probably got a stranglehold on your league, given the valuations you probably got in the way of that.
Yeah, the 1 year punt, like productive struggle out of the startup, collecting picks and doing that whole approach is so goddamn effective in home leagues. It's insane. Like we talk about it like in industry leagues or
Sharp
like
leagues.
you guys, it's difficult to accomplish because people don't want to trade away their picks. People are drafting young players, but when you have a home league where redraft players are going off the board, like it is so free, it's not even funny. And they'll give you their first round picks for your like 7th round startup pick, and it's just absolutely free cash. So definitely take advantage of that if you can. No worries, Corey. Nate said can't watch right now, but will later. Leave a like for the fellas. Appreciate it. If we've answered your question, the least you could do is leave a like. And if we've answered your question, you're not subscribed yet, you should definitely hit the subscribe button. Mike says, I live in Patriots territory, had to take advantage of the Falcons haters. Got Ritter late. He's a big sleeper trust. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind him from a dynasty perspective because I'm shocked that they've committed to him as much as they have, to be honest. I really expected them to bring in somebody better or be more rumored to be in on certain players, and they just haven't.
Yeah, no, I do respect that. I mean, like it just shows the confidence in him, and whether we'll see exactly like how well he does this season, but I am cautiously optimistic about what he can do. Obviously, he wasn't the greatest prospect, but at the same time, it's like he's got mobility. He's obviously a very mature guy from what I've been hearing about him. The fact that they haven't even remotely considered the possibility of bringing some competition in for him. Like typically you'll see a 3rd round rookie, not a team not have this much confidence in just going to him after what 6-7 starts he had last year, Corey?
For Ritter?
6-7 starts at the end of the year?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, like the fact that they're showing this much confidence in him potentially being their starting.
It might have been less than that, dude. I think it might have only been like 4 or 5.
Regardless, it adds to the point. Like they didn't see a full season of him, and yet they have so much faith in him potentially being the guy. By the way, it was 4 games for the record.
Yeah, no, it wasn't too many games. The fact that they're going, and like Howell too, like Howell's only started 1 game, and they're but I believed a lot more in Howell as a prospect. So
well, they also did bring in Brissett. Like the Falcons got what?
I mean, Heineke. They just swapped like middling quarterbacks.
Yeah. Though I will say Brissett's a lot better than Heineke.
Yeah, he is a lot better than Heineke. I got Mike Williams too. Agree with Smooth.
Oh,
trying to sell Mike Williams as a rebuilder. What should I be looking for? I mean, you'd be lucky to get a 1, like very lucky. So I would say you're probably gonna have to settle for an early projected 2nd rounder. If I were you as a rebuilder, I would just look to down tier to Bateman or to Elijah Moore or somebody like that.
Like maybe hypothetically, if somebody's really low on those one of those guys, and it may not sound plausible in most leagues, but in your league, if you can potentially flip Mike Williams plus a 3 into any of those down tier wide receivers plus a 2, like that is an absolute money move.
I would even do it for Sky Moore. As much as Sky Moore is not proven as much as Elijah Moore and Bateman, I would still be willing to do Sky Moore and a 2 for Mike Williams and a 3. Even if it's like a projected late second, I would still potentially do something like that. Because Mike Williams doesn't have a crazy shelf life of production. But I will say, don't force a sell on him because he might be more valuable in season. And you could potentially get something better at that point because we both think Mike Williams is a pretty good redraft option. Trade JSN for Adams if you already have Kelsey and Saquon.
Can you get a plus? I don't want to do that.
I would like a plus as well. And I would also venture to the Diggs, Cup, and Tyreek managers and see what they want, what they can give you. Because I would prefer all 3 of them to Devontae Adams from a redraft perspective.
Quarterback
and
situation.
Maybe you can get a plus on top as well.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like Dawson went from super underrated to overrated. I would completely disagree with you. I don't know how he's overrated, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I mean, he was definitely super underrated at one point, but I think he's, for me, where I took him at the 5-12 in this draft, I think that's exactly where he should be going. And I still think I'm high on Jahan Dotson relative to most people. Can you also discuss the strategy? 0/hero RB strategy differs between 0.5 and full PPR. I mean, it's going to be more effective in full PPR for sure because wide receivers are more valuable. And same goes if you have like a 3 wide receiver, 2 flex versus like a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex type of league. It's going to be more effective. And we talked about that in last year's videos, and I'm sure when we refresh them, we will talk about it again. So those strategies will be better. Personally, I believe that Hero RB is going to be the way better strategy this year, or potentially double Hero RB, just because the landscape of the market in redraft and in Dynasty has caught up to the point that running backs are no longer as overvalued as they used to be. So you can get 1 or 2 deviations at, round 3 and round 5, and it can be really, really solid for your team rather than a couple of years ago when all the running backs were going so high that you could get elite, first round wide receiver players in round 3. That's not really the case anymore. Anybody who has a great projection is going high. Garrett Wilson 2 years ago be like a mid 3rd round pick.
Yeah. The way I would describe it is an augmented 0 RB, or what's the term? Basically, I'm just gonna call
adjusted.
it an adjusted 0 RB. Yeah, something like that. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, if you can get your hero RB, not 0. If you can get your hero in like round 3, round 4 now, and it's like an ETN, it's like a Ramondre, it's somebody like that with upside, while still holding a stranglehold on the wide receiver position, I think that's probably going to be your best advantageous position. Obviously, it depends on where you're selecting. Like if you're at the 101, obviously you're going to take Jefferson, but like Pollard's probably going to be the best player falling back to you in round 2 in most leagues. And at that point, like just take the running back because he projects better over the wide receivers. But more so, I'm looking at if you're picking pick 11, pick 12, pick 10, somewhere in that area, I would much rather personally stack up 2 stud wide receivers, not Chase, but what's it called? If Cup falls, or CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, Stephon Diggs, Garrett Wilson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, I would rather stack 2 of those guys and then have my pick of the litter at running backs like Ramondre, ETN, those guys that were mentioning at that 3-4 turn to maybe pair with a Mark Andrews or Lamar, rather than fall behind the 8-ball wide receiver in the first 2 rounds. I guess it will all depend on where you're actually selecting, but I genuinely think the main strategy I'm going to be looking at if I'm picking late in my first round is getting 2 of these elite league winning type of wide receivers, because I do think the fall off come wide receiver 8 on is more steeper than people want to acknowledge.
Yeah, and I think come the videos that we do every year, the number 1 draft strategy from picks 1 to 4, 5 to 8, and 9 to 12, maybe we could make an addendum to that video this year where we're talking about like, a modified 0 RB or a modified Hero RB or a double Hero RB as being like we rank the 3 strategies based on where you're picking, because certain positions in the draft, like a modified Hero RB is going to be very effective from like the 5 spot because Bijan Robinson will probably be on the board there.
Yeah. By the way, not
that was the word you were looking
modified
for.
I thought I was looking for. Yeah. For the record, anybody that was confused.
Yeah. Would you trade away Hawk for Addison? Yes, I would. I would rather have Jordan Addison easily. Where would 2024 102 rank in a startup draft? That's an interesting question. Let's pull the board back up. Let's see.
I closed it, but
I'll pull it up. I got it up here.
Oh, got you.
Okay. So the startup draft,
now,
102. What's up?
Is that where we would draft them as assets right now, or where
let's say right now?
Okay. If you're drafting it right now, he's probably 102, which would be Drake May / Marvin Harrison Jr. I would probably say right before Amon-Ra St. Brown in that area, so the 208 on. But then again, I would also have him above like Breece Hall.
Yeah, so
And
it
Tyreek.
would differ because this board isn't like our rankings, because I got Bryce Young at 212, and I would rather have Bryce Young right now than Drake May.
Yeah.
But would you rather have, gun to your head right now, the guaranteed 102 in next year's class or Garrett Wilson?
I would take the quarterback equity.
I think that's the exact cutoff. Like, I think after Garrett Wilson, I would take 102 over Olave.
Yeah.
I would take 102 over any running back not named Bijan Robinson. I would take him over even Pitts, unless it's a 2-point tight end premium potentially. And then I would also take him as like the quarterback. What would that be, like 13
probably
or
right
14,
after
right behind Dak Prescott, Bryce Young, and Anthony Richardson.
I would agree there too. The way I view it with the Garrett Wilson, I think that's an interesting one, is as high as I am on Garrett Wilson, worst case scenario, the 102, let's say Drake May has a bad year and he's no longer considered the 102, because that's kind of how I look at it, right? If you're acquiring the 102 right now, obviously the upside for Drake May is he could be a first-round starter pick, which is why I said where do we project in a year. But hypothetically, he hits that downside, maybe he regresses this year, falls to like the second round, which again, I don't think is plausible, but we got to think of potential scenarios. Then it's Marvin Harrison Jr. And Marvin Harrison Jr., regardless of what happens, I don't think has even a remote chance of falling out of the first round. And as soon as he gets drafted, I think is going to be valued right there with Garrett Wilson, possibly even ahead of Garrett Wilson in some people's rankings. That might be a hot take, but knowing how high the market is on Marvin Harrison Jr. right now, I wouldn't be shocked if you had some people calling for him to be the wide receiver 3 in Dynasty as soon as he gets drafted, similar to what they were doing with Jamar Chase, given the prospect level.
Yeah, no, I'm on board with that. I think Drake / Marvin would be definitely like a borderline 2-3 turn pick, most likely. Lance needs to be so okay. The last thing I'll say on Lance, because just we've already talked to death about this, I will say, like, if he gets traded, he loses value. I understand, like, he probably won't, if he gets traded, he probably won't not ever be a starter again, because he was like a top 3 pick in the NFL draft. But he definitely, the best case scenario for him is still to be the starter of San Francisco.
Yeah, to a degree. I will say, though, if I know we mentioned Atlanta, I do like Ritter, but hypothetically, if they had a downside case here and they were looking for someone else, I think Trey Lance would make sense there. Or if you look in the AFC, hypothetically, insert team that has an unstable quarterback situation now, I think Trey Lance can zoom into. Like Patriots, for example. Patriots could be looking to move on from Mac after this year. I think Trey Lance...
If Trey Lance is the starting quarterback of the New England Patriots next year, does he lose, gain, or keep the same value he has right now?
Well, he gains value because people...
I disagree. I think he is exactly the same value as he is right now if he's the Patriots starting quarterback.
You think he's going to go in the 7th round of startups, even though he was a starting quarterback at 24 years old? I completely disagree.
Okay, well, what happened this year, too? Why is he on New England? What happened this year?
Huh?
What happened this year? Because if he's on a different team, that probably means he wasn't good this year again.
Or he just didn't get the opportunity to.
Well, how would that happen this year? Like, Purdy's back week 1, he just starts the whole season?
Hypothetically, I mean, like, realistically, as much as I like Trey Lance and think he's a better quarterback from a potential standpoint than what Brock Purdy represents, like, if the guy was getting San Francisco wins, like, I can see them just saying, fuck it. Like, we don't need elite quarterback play. We took our swing on an elite quarterback. Didn't pan out for us because this guy stepped in and showed that we don't need an elite quarterback. Like, I think trying to understand the logic of what Kyle Shanahan does is going to be the detriment of the fantasy community. Because, I mean, look at over the years.
That's why I'm not even trying. I'm just saying, Trey Lance, if he's not the starting quarterback all this year, it means that he probably isn't good and he should lose value.
See, I'm buying him for the fantasy upside here. Like, for me personally, I don't think it.
But what fantasy upside does he have if yet again for the 3rd straight year he doesn't get on the field?
We just mentioned that Kyle Shanahan doesn't make the most logical calls. I mean,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he knows more than we do about Trey Lance's ability.
Sure,
He's seeing him every day in practice. So I'm just going to trust that if Trey Lance can't beat out Brock Purdy, if they're both healthy, it means that Trey Lance is worse than Brock Purdy.
Sure, but at the same time, coaches don't think about who has more upside. Coaches think
they
about
don't, but they think about who can win them games. Exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, San Francisco's such a quarterback-proof situation that literally Jimmy Garoppolo, Brock Purdy composite has been ranked as a top 5 overall EPA plus EPOE. So it's ridiculous.
So the last thing I will say on this is that if Trey Lance doesn't win the job this year and doesn't start for the 49ers, we should no longer be saying that he has elite upside. That's my point, because it means he's had three shots at it basically, and still hasn't done it.
He absolutely still has elite fantasy upside, because
I think if he was a pure fantasy quarterback and they saw the rushing in practice, they would still give him a chance. I think upside is an all-encompassing term, in my opinion. If they saw the rushing in practice, they would give him a starting job.
I mean, at the end of the day, with Trey Lance, I don't know how we can make assumptions on the guy when we haven't been able to see him play.
I'm not making assumptions on him. I'm saying once training camp is over, we'll have 3 years of information, or at least the 49ers will have had 3 years of information to make a decision.
But we just talked about the fact that logic isn't what Kyle Shanahan defaults to. He goes to whatever he feels comfortable.
I think it's very logical of him to see a quarterback in his third season after 3 training camps who's still not taking the leap and not want to start him. I think that's very logical. I don't think that's illogical at all.
I don't know.
Do you think it was illogical for the Jets to give up on Zach Wilson as fast as they did?
No, because he was actually shit when he played.
Right, but
Trey Lance wasn't shit when he played.
While Trey Lance hasn't played in games, he's played in practice, and they make the decision based on that.
Brother, but you haven't watched the practices, so you don't know.
No, I know that. But if they're not talking high on him, my assumption is that he's not performing well in practice. Otherwise, they would be talking about him.
But again, it's all assumption. All I know is when he gets onto the field, the guy's going to be an A+ rusher and has arm talent to be an upper
I don't know,
level
dude. I'll let you guys keep chasing the upside of Trey Lance.
I'm going to in the 7th round, absolutely I will.
I will follow the tea leaves that Trey Lance is not proving shit in practice, hence why they're not talking about him in a positive light. So, end of the Trey Lance discussion. No more Trey Lance questions. Do you have any plans to do any meetups? I mean, if anybody's on Ontario, by all means. But if we go to a game or whatever, we'll let you guys know. And if you're in the area, definitely check it out.
Tailgate would be fucking lit.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. What's a realistic trade to deal Madison? Based on his value right now, you should be able to get close to a first-round capital player.
If you can, that's an easy sell. I would be willing to sell on a high 2 capital player personally, but like, yeah, if you can get higher than that, absolutely. Like realistically, if you can get, I don't know, Alex Madison plus a small piece to get like Calvin fucking Ridley, like go do it. Yeah.
Ridley was also where my mind went to as well. I'm taking year 1, boys. Yeah, probably Josh is taking year 1 there in that league. 1 quarterback, full PPR, 12 team. Get in his inbox. I'm guessing he just got sent this trade. Give Chubb and a projected late first. Get Ramondre and Godwin. I like this trade. I think I like it.
Yeah,
I would rather have Ramondre by a moderate amount than Nick Chubb, and Godwin for a projected late 1 quarterback first. I'll take Godwin.
1 quarterback, sign me up. Yeah, give me Ramondre and Godwin. By the way, Mr. Keeves, we already answered this a while ago, brother, but we said Bateman in a 2.
Yeah, first superflex draft I've ever done. I feel like I zagged and it worked perfectly. Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, when we're all taking quarterbacks highly, sometimes it is kind of a decent strategy to just punt quarterback and take a bunch of QB2, 3 types and get strong at the other positions. It definitely can work out. Don't make me choose between Mac and Ritter. Yeah,
I take Ritter.
Ritter is good. Watch the tape, man. I did watch the tape, and Ritter looked better than I thought. But Ritter was not good in college, and I don't care what anybody says. He was a shit prospect, but he did look better than I thought he was going to his rookie year. Hence why I'm kind of, cooling on the take that he's terrible.
Yeah.
Tannehill or Cousins will be taking Ritter's job in Atlanta next year. That's very possible. Definitely very possible.
Yep.
Perfect time to watch it. Getting hit with the tapes.
This feels like Twitter right now. What's going on there?
Bryce Young is winning that division. Sadly, wouldn't shock me if Bryce Young was just that good.
As good as he is, dude. This is going to come back to bite me because I do think you can bet any of the teams given the odds to win the division, I guess.
Except for Tampa. We're not winning the division.
I mean, yeah, you guys are.
I think we will finish 4th, personally.
Yeah.
And they are my team. And yeah, I'm rooting for it because I want a good quarterback, but I also just think they're objectively the worst team in the division.
Probably. I mean, like realistically, though, they're probably going to win like 7 games and you're going to
No, I don't think so. I think we're going to be somewhere between 4 and 6 wins.
I cannot wait for Baker Mayfield to get you out of the May and Williams sweepstakes.
Hey, buddy, if Baker Mayfield cooks, I'll be all here for it because Baker Mayfield ironically was my quarterback 1 in 2018. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, so take that with a grain of salt. but I did think he was the best quarterback in that class.
Hey, real quick, by the way, he likes making bets. Hey, Matt, he likes
Dude,
making bets.
Matt's sole job in the chat is to just talk about me making bets.
He likes making bets.
What's with the Christian Watson hype with QB uncertainty and an up and down year one?
Oh,
I think it's the
I tweeted about
peripherals,
it
the fact that
recently.
he was able to
Yeah.
be so efficient, score touchdowns, and command targets. That's
Yeah,
pretty
I
much
mean,
it.
with Christian Watson, I understand like there's some volatility there because we're lower on him as a profile, and whatever the case may be, people are kind of not in on Christian Watson. But after seeing what he was able to do as a rookie, like I am now all in on him. Like
He
I
feels
view him
like
as a
Chase
clear top.
Claypool a little bit, though. I will say he does remind me a little bit of what we
He
were talking
commanded
about with Chase
volume though.
Claypool.
He commanded volume.
So did
With Chase
Claypool his rookie year, dude. He was commanding volume with Juju and with Deontay on the field. Like they were, it's a very, very similar situation. Like they were like freakish athletes. Like was lower on them coming out, but they proved us kind of wrong in their rookie years. They both had monster like 3 touchdown games, just like Chase Claypool did.
I will
It's a
say,
little
though,
nerve-wracking, I will say.
in the 8 games once Christian Watson became a full-time starter week 10 on, in those 8 games, 52 targets, 31 receptions, 523 receiving yards, and 7 receiving touchdowns.
Buddy,
Honestly,
you don't think I could pull the same exact split from Chase Claypool's rookie season? You are mistaken.
Well, that's why we don't use one piece as the determinant.
I know, but all I'm saying is we were
context.
high on Claypool, we're high on Watson. It's the same exact situation.
I will always make that
freakish
bet.
athlete, wide receiver, scored a lot of touchdowns, and was efficient as a rookie.
I will always make the bet on that type of profile because more often than not, you will be right than wrong. So,
it's nerve-wracking because both of them were lower prospects, in our opinion. Like the prospect profile wasn't like if Christian Watson had his exact same rookie season, except with Treylon Burks' prospect profile, I would be totally fine being all in on him.
Yeah, well, and I mean, not to mention with Chase Claypool, like I think he's still a talented player, but the guy's just a complete fucking knucklehead. Yeah, like at least like with Christian Watson, from what I've gotten from him so far, is he seems like a pretty mature guy, which I'm not surprised considering the fact he literally entered the fucking Packers at 23 years old.
Well, yeah, and he performed well in like Senior Bowl and like practice scenarios as well. Micah says in a startup and have 2 guys that haven't picked a player in the first 10 rounds and almost all of the 24 and 25 picks besides the 5 that I have. How the hell do you have? How do you have 5 if these guys have been trading down like crazy? That's pretty impressive. Got out struggled. What now? I mean, your best case scenario is that you're a house money team. Those guys are going to be the struggles. Obviously, they're going to be going real for the long term. But if you've still built out some good assets, like you're not tanking for 101, you're tanking for a high pick, and also that your team already has some pieces on it.
Yeah, no,
because they can still miss on their picks, right? Like it's not like they're gonna just because they have all the picks, they're gonna hit on them.
Maybe they're just not hashtag good.
Yeah. Yes. On of both running backs. Yeah. I wanted 2 more wide receivers. Eagles rushing game is built around Jalen Hurts. Cortisone injection is not that big of a deal. It definitely is not. You get them for pimples. Yeah. It's not a big deal.
But people made such a fucking thing on them. It's like, come on.
When the market decides somebody gets injured all the time, that's all they can think about usually.
Started Mahomes, Kyler, Pitts, Dak. Just traded Dak for a first and a second. Trying to productive struggle. I would have wanted more for Dak.
If you got Dak in the 4th round, though, I think that was a fine return. Because that's where he would have gotten him, right? Mahomes, Kyler, Pitts would have been his first 3 picks.
And this is going to sound fucked, but hear me out on this. In my opinion, in this situation, knowing that Mahomes is still going to be like the 101, he can still fetch a godfather. Wouldn't you rather get like 4 to 5 plus first of equity for Mahomes and have Kyler and Dak
rather than sell Dak? Yeah,
that's what I mean.
Actually, yeah, that's the thing about navigating the quarterback market. If certain players are undervalued, like Kyler Murray and Dak Prescott seem to be across most of these leagues, is that you can get much more for Mahomes, right? Like you can get Chase and 2 firsts or Chase and a first and another great player or something like that.
Like realistically, you could. Let me know if this sounds implausible, but I do think this could be the case. In this type of situation, could you not get like Chase, Gibbs, and like an extra first or something like that?
I mean, that'd be a pretty high price. It's hard. Like, yeah, that's what Mahomes is worth, but like, it's hard for people to actually accept on that deal.
Yeah. No, it is fascinating though. Obviously, this is like an embarrassment of riches spot. We're literally talking about like, oh, like you got such good value that you might want to sell the highest price asset just to get the most value in return. But I mean, overall, for your first fucking Dynasty league, you fucking smashed it.
Yeah. Laughable Laffy Taffy says, do you guys value keep trade cut strength of team rankings? No. I mean, it's definitely a good gauge on if your team is ready to compete, if you're like thinking you can compete and your keep trade cut ranking is like 9th or something like that, maybe you should probably like wake up a little bit, but I wouldn't take it into account like too much of its value.
I quickly want to get down to this because Brock addressed it. Yeah, it is such a weird fucking point. Obviously, you don't want to fucking trade him, but at the same time, it's like if your other two quarterbacks are still really fucking good like that, like Kyler and Dak, and Mahomes is still going to be valued as like this 5+ first round type of player, like it's tricky, man.
If you think about it common sense wise, like why would you ever trade the like potential best quarterback ever
of all time, right?
Years old? Like you would probably never do it if you think about it that way.
But like it's honestly overcoming emotion for quote unquote logic. And it's like your emotion is going to be like, well, I want to keep the best player on the planet for the next fucking 10 years who's going to be in the Hall of Fame first ballot once he's done. But at the same time, it's like, well, fuck, if he's offering you Jefferson fucking Gibbs in the first round pick and you already have Kyler and Dak, it's like,
I mean, Jefferson might be in the Hall of Fame on his first ballot.
He will. Well, so. He will. I can't. It's so fun watching these young talents, but yeah, it's tricky.
It's fun for us because when we were kids, like, yeah, we remember Julio Jones, we remember Calvin Johnson, Antonio Brown, but like we're old enough to now see their whole career fully understanding how football works. Like, because when in 2011, when Julio Jones was drafted, I understood football, but I didn't know it to the extent I know it now. And seeing these guys' whole careers play out in front of us is the cool part.
Well, I still remember like when DeMarcus Lawrence got drafted, when fucking, I mean, if you're looking way back 2011 when Tyron Smith was drafted, when Des Bryant was drafted in 2010. Like I remember all of these guys getting drafted. I remember how I felt, but now like having seen like how they've matured and how their whole careers have unwinded, it's like we literally have been living as football fans longer than some guys' entire careers at this point.
And buddy, there's going to be somebody in the comments that's been around since like Lawrence Taylor.
Oh, we're just going to get Ernest in here talking about it, or fucking we'll get Henry or something. Like we'll get
somebody's going to be in here and be like, you guys are talking about players drafted like 15 years ago. I literally watched the draft when Ronnie Lott and Lawrence Taylor were drafted.
Well, I remember, I think it was Henry that said like his first ever dynasty pick was like Randy Moss.
Yeah, pretty good one, eh?
Yeah, man. Fuck, that's
CD,
crazy.
AJ Brown, Najee, ETN could happen in home leagues. Yeah, literally, that's possible. That's a possible start that you can start with, which I really like. And even if you wanted to replace Najee with Jacobs or Ramondre, you could really still start.
Or even like Lamar or Andrews. Like,
yeah,
the starts this year are gonna be so much fun. I just traded Swift for Miles Sanders. I personally prefer Swift to Miles Sanders.
Yeah, in Dynasty, sure. Yeah. I mean, even in redraft, I think it's probably a conversation. If you're risk averse, I don't hate that deal. Sanders is a better projection for volume, but Swift could probably. I mean, your running backs were good enough, I think. Dobbins, Walker, and Pacheco that I would have kept the upside swing of Swift.
Yep, I agree there. Here, let's smash through the rest.
Yeah, we're gonna rip through here. Hey, fellas, Gibbs or Pitts and Superflex tight end premium? Give me Pitts there. He said there was a Dynasty league. Lance to the Raiders. That would make a lot of sense.
I want that so bad. That would be so nice.
Spot is way different. I don't want to start Lance against Starks.
Yeah, we love it.
Robert Griffin III, for what it's worth, was a mobile quarterback that worked in the Shanahan system. And didn't I could be making this up? Andy? Well, I mean, Andy Reid kind of runs a West Coast like Shanahan-ish system as well, and he had Donovan McNabb for all those years in Philadelphia, who worked out as a mobile quarterback. It's a West Coast offense. Yeah, it's Shanahan's system, but like any West Coast offense can be successful with mobile quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Donovan McNabb was in that system like the last 2 years of his career, and he still was relatively decent. So
yeah,
and not to mention,
being hurt is not 3 years of information.
Yeah.
Is this in relation to when I said about Zach Wilson? Maybe, I don't know.
Trey Lance.
RG3. Yep, RG3 got hurt in that system as well. Yeah, maybe all the mobile quarterbacks are just jinxed. It was his. Also, can the 49ers get a new goddamn field? I feel like every player on their team gets injured every single year.
Yeah, it's actually
everybody except for Brandon Ayuk, for what it's worth. You're right, Cody. If you're worried about injuries, I understand that, but we have seen. Yeah, okay. Come by Lance and tone setters is what he's saying.
Yeah. I mean, if you want Russ for him.
Okay, I'm just ripping him. Bush telling me, Matt's telling me to make a bet. Just traded Swift for Deontay in a 2025 first. Thoughts? Give me Deontay in a first pretty easily.
Yeah, pretty easily there.
I
think the
like
first
Watson
round.
more, and yeah, I am on board with the round 4
Yep.
underdog. Watson is too high for me. Like he should be a 5th or a 6th round pick, like Claypool was a couple of years ago when he was coming off his rookie season.
The only reason why I'm against Watson at that ADP is simply because I prefer like a guy like Jerry Judy at that spot. And like if I'm looking at the ADP here, so to answer a question, I'll quickly pull it up so I can check. Rankings, NFL. Like if we're looking at the ADP where Christian Watson's going, he's currently going around guys like, Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, Deebo Samuel, Calvin Ridley, guys I would take over him. Not to mention right after him, like I would prefer Jerry Judy to him. I would say like once you get to the Mike Williams range, it starts being a wash. So I would say right now he's probably at least a half round a little bit too high for me. And I'm high on him.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, Claypool didn't he have like a 4 or 5 touchdown game his rookie season, Claypool?
I've 7 for 110 and 3 receiving touchdowns, I
Against
believe.
Philly, right?
Yeah. And then
I
I
think
think he also had a rushing
for some reason
touchdown.
I thought he had like a 4 or 5 touchdown game.
Oh, it was
Because
a
he had
4 touchdown
rushing
game.
touchdown, didn't he?
It was 4 touchdown game because he had 3 receiving touchdowns and a rushing
Yeah.
touchdown.
He did get most of, but like for what it's worth, like Claypool, his projection going into his second year, like I would make that bet again. And like I'm making it on Watson.
To be fair too, like he wasn't even bad in his second year, man. Like if we're looking back, his second year it was the only thing is he got quote unquote worse from his rookie season, but that was more so touchdown regression because in his second year he had 105 targets in 15 games, 860 receiving yards, but only 2 receiving touchdowns. So
right, but when you say losing Aaron Rodgers is likely to lead to touchdown regression for Christian Watson.
Oh, I already acknowledged that he's not going to score 15 touchdowns in 17 games, but can he score 7 or 8? I think that's possible.
Yeah, I mean it's really all going to depend on Jordan Love, honestly. Like I think Jordan Love.
Well, sorry, I just wanted to point out Aaron Rodgers threw only like 26 touchdowns last year, I think, no?
Yeah, he actually didn't have a crazy amount. Watson, for me, been going around Ayuk and Judy. Not sure with him in that. Yeah, I think I would take Ayuk and Judy pretty easily over him. What do we think about DK this year? Honestly, the investment, nervous. I mean, like, I guess you could say this is a double-sided coin because they drafted a slot receiver also, but the investment in Charbonnet in the second round really, to me, kind of points to the fact that the Seahawks want to be a run-heavy offense, even though they drafted JSN in the first round. I think having a 2-back system, to me, like Pete Carroll, how long have we known Pete Carroll wanting to run the ball? Like his entire life. So I think having DK going off the board as high as he's going, and JSN going off the board as high as he's going, and Tyler Lockett even going off the board as high as he's going, I think they're all kind of maybe a half round, a full round, a little too high for me.
Let me wrap you around some receivers that are going like right around DK Metcalf right now. Don't really think I have to label these guys, but I'm assuming you're taking Devontae and T. Higgins quite easily.
Smith?
Yep.
Yes, I would take both of them over DK.
Calvin Ridley, you're taking quite easily.
Easily.
Deebo Samuel, a little bit more of a toss-up. Would you take Deebo Samuel?
I would rather have Deebo Samuel than DK Metcalf in redraft this year.
Amari Cooper. I'd take Cooper. I would.
Yeah, I think I would too.
Now we get gutty. Would you take Jerry Judy or DK Metcalf?
I would take DK over Judy.
How close are they though for you?
They're close enough, but I would. That's where the slide would stop. I think. I just think he's about a half round, full round too high. I think he should be like a mid to late 4th round pick instead of like an early 3rd or mid 3rd where he's going.
The reason why I mentioned that is because DK Metcalf is going at the 28.5 ADP right now. So in the middle of
that's
the
too high,
round.
Man.
Jerry Judy's going 41.5, and I think they're literally a coin flip of a difference.
Oh, I think you could make the argument for a number of receivers in that area. I think you could make the argument that Chris Godwin should go ahead of DK Metcalf in drafts right now.
I don't know if this is a hot take. I would still prefer DK on face value, but tell me what the difference in projection is between Mike Williams and DK Metcalf.
I could say the same with Terry McLaurin too.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I love the guy. He's a talented wide receiver, but I'm not to mention we are fully hitching the wagon here that Geno Smith's going to be the exact same guy he was this year. So it's like there's too many things I'm betting on just for him to return at ADP or to return value at ADP.
Right.
So I don't know if you guys
offense could be good this year. I personally, I'm not usually on this page with most offenses, but I just want the running backs on Seattle. I just want Kenneth Walker in the 5th, 6th round where he goes in redraft.
I'll also take Tyler Lockett at
around 9-10.
I'll also take Tyler Lockett at value if he's falling to the 7th round or 8th round or wherever the fuck he's going. Like realistically, if you could compare a blind resume test of DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett across the last 2 years,
it's the same.
It's the same. And one goes 4 rounds before the other.
Yeah. Is a hometown league and mainly everyone's first. Yeah, they don't value quarterbacks. Brock, agree with the Mahomes takes. Take all my future.
That sounded
Uh,
like you're benefiting from that.
I don't know if I played Dynasty in the 2000s. I'm never trading Brady or Manning. Can't do
Makes
it. Yeah,
sense.
it's basically what we're talking about
It's
with
tough.
Patrick Mahomes. Um,
Remember Brady and Peyton getting drafted in their rivalry? Yeah. That was the OG days when I was like 5, 6 years old, and I'm watching Brady versus Manning in the fucking AFC Championship.
yeah, no, it's wild. Micah, the link in the Flock Discord, it should have taken you to the article. If it didn't take you to the article, then the link must be busted again. But all you have to do is go to bonus content and then go to videos on the site once you're on there. If you're a site subscriber, you can see it. If you haven't, obviously start your free trial so you can watch that video. But
I'll take a peek at it after we're done too. I am curious.
it's on there. 31 people have seen it already. So people have access to it. Maybe just the link is busted. So I would just say make sure to go to bonus content and videos. And if you guys don't know what Mike is talking about, at the beginning of the video, I talked about it. The 2024 top 10 running back rankings with film breakdowns for the top 5 is live on our site right now. And of course, flockfantasy.com is how you get that. Use promo code FSC for 30% off. And then me and Jared had a great consultation today. If you sign up annually, you get a free consultation. We'll talk about whatever you want to do. If you want to draft an underdog team while I'm on a consultation with you, I'll draft an underdog team. If you want to talk Dynasty, we can talk Dynasty. If you want to start a YouTube channel about fantasy football, I'll help you with that. Like, it doesn't matter. And Danny, same thing.
Yeah, I mean, heck, you're a Cowboys fan. You want to talk about projections going into the season. You want to talk about, who's the favorite sleeper, whatever the fuck you guys want to talk about. You want to talk about your personal life. I don't give a fuck, man. I will talk about anything with anyone because at the end of the day here, I just love communicating with you guys.
Yes, we do love to communicate. Jax also have Ayuk, JMO, which I'm iffy on, me too. Quentin Johnson, Elijah Moore, Levis, Charbonnet, and Kendre Miller. I think I have a pretty good house money team. Yeah, that's a very good house money team, especially those two running backs. Charbonnet and Kendre are perfect house money guys. What is Rashad White worth in a rookie draft? Like an early second rounder, give or take.
I would be more willing to sell him at that price than buy him, though.
That's about what he's worth, I think.
Yeah,
early to
but that's what I mean. Yeah.
Got traded for stomping someone in the face outside of bar. I don't actually remember this. What? When did Chase Claypool stomp somebody in the face?
I don't remember that, but that makes me want.
Sounds like something he would do.
It sounds like I want to raise him up my rankings for that because he could stand up for himself, I guess.
Oh, actually, yes, I do remember this.
Was it at a Canadian bar?
I don't know, but it was during his like hype season when we were really high on him that it happened. I remember
second year. Yeah, fuck it.
Yeah. People forgot Lockett is a certified good football player. I feel like everybody keeps talking about Tyler Lockett being underrated, though, and I think he's just properly rated at this point.
Well, I mean, like anybody who doesn't have him inside like the top 20 to 25 wide receivers in the NFL is literally throwing. He's fucking awesome.
Okay, so yeah, Micah said you need to be signed in on the website first. That is certified there. Turn DK into Flowers and Kendre Miller. In Dynasty, I think I prefer DK.
Yeah, at that point, I would just take DK. If that was Quentin Johnson and Kendre Miller, though, I'd probably be more interested in that. Or Jordan Addison and Kendre Miller, I would be more interested. But
Manning 4-2 against Brady in the AFC Championships, even though Brady is clearly the best quarterback ever. Is that true? I thought there was a while where Manning was always struggling against Brady for most of his career.
Well, I think the reason why is the 2013 and the 2015 AFC.
Oh yeah, because when he was on the Colts, it was not like that.
When he was on
they used to get the best of the Colts all the time.
They beat him in 2006.
Yeah,
and what's the other year?
But that was the first time because they beat him like 3 years in a row before that. I'm pretty sure.
Wait, did they beat the Patriots back in 2009 when they went to play the Saints? Was that the AFC Championship that year?
They must have. Yeah, they must have.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
But I think the 2006 year was the first time he ever beat Brady, and I thought they had beaten the Colts 3 times up until that point. I thought all 3 of the Patriots Super Bowls they beat the Colts to get there.
No, the one they had to beat it was right after they played the Raiders because the Raiders obviously
they probably had to beat the Ravens maybe at one point.
Maybe the Ravens.
Patriots.
I am curious. Who?
Oh, divisional rounds. That's why. It's because they didn't play each other in championship games.
Oh.
He's talking only championships. It's Manning is 3-2.
Yeah, that's who I thought. Yeah, because the Jets went on the wrong run with Sanchez, and they actually, I think, upset the Patriots in that run.
Yeah, and then the Jets lost the year after to the Steelers, right? In the next AFC Championship, and then LT retired or something.
And
maybe he didn't retire, but
no, because I remember the Jets lost to the Colts in the 2009 AFC Championship, played them in the wild card the next year, and then got the revenge. They won 17-16, I think, on a game-winning field goal.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
fucking wild, man. I was 9 years old, 10 years old for that, actually, 2010. I
Danny's an
was 10 years
absolute
old.
child. Just put that
That's
in the chat. We'll close
crazy.
it out. Yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoyed. This was a pretty long stream, give or take. But if you did enjoy, leave a like. If you haven't checked out our content before and somehow this was the first time you've been checking us out, definitely hit the subscribe button. And also, we've talked a lot of, redraft. Check out Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FSE. It's going along the scroll bar there. 100% match back up to $100. Link down below in the description for that. And then also head over to Flock Fantasy for first priority Dynasty decision submissions, for our Dynasty rankings, for Superflex, one quarterback, rookie rankings, trade value charts, Danny's contextualized game logs. The Truth Series is coming up too. Top 10 running backs in 2024, top 10 quarterbacks in 2024, bonus content, databases, my grades for all the rookies from this past draft class. All available, flockfantasy.com, the only place you can get it. Promo code FSC for 30% off, a 2-day free trial, 6 months for free if you sign up annually, and of course a Zoom consultation if you do so ASAP. So definitely appreciate you guys checking us out. Definitely was a blast. Appreciate that, Daniel. We will talk to you guys soon. Peace out.